folks register, which is amazing. So please, we'll start in a couple of minutes and have folks join us. Thank you for being here with us today. We are just thrilled that so many of you are taking your time to join us today for the Just Pay rally to restore COLA and achieve pay equity for the essential human services workforce. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that our voices are heard. And so please use the chat, chime in if you have questions, you have comments, statements. I want the chat to be lit. And by lit, I mean that it should just be popping and comments should be flowing in. In the meantime, as folks join us, please use the chat. Let us know what organization you're representing today and what borough you're joining us from, or if you're in Westchester, Connecticut, wherever you are, please let us know where you're joining us from. I love it. I love it. All these folks chiming in. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, that's right. That's how I want to keep seeing the chat this entire hour, lit up with comments and statements. And let's do our part to make sure the administration hears our voices loud and clear. And it's very simple. Just pay. Hashtag just pay. If you're on social media, put it out there too. Put it out there that you're joining us today, and we're going to let the mayor know that we are essential, that human services, our workforce, are key to this city and to the New Yorkers, that we serve. Let's go. Let them hear us. We may be virtual, but it doesn't mean we're invisible. Let's go. And for those of you that don't know me, I'll introduce myself. I am actually Maria Lizardo, the executive director of a human services organization called NIMIC. I am also a proud board member of both United Neighborhood Houses, UNH, and the Human Services Council, HSC. And I want to thank both UNH and HSC for putting together this rally. It is not easy to do a virtual rally, but today, here we are, over 1,000 folks registered, because we all know the essential work that we do. And so thank you for joining us. I want to thank our board members that are on here today, our staff, our allies, and other New Yorkers who know the value of our work. Previous to COVID, we knew and we know that human services workforce provides key services to some of the most vulnerable New Yorkers. During COVID, it was our workforce that was out there on the front lines providing services, whether it was working in shelters to make sure that New Yorkers had a place to sleep, providing food to make sure that no New Yorkers went to bed hungry, providing childcare to make sure that our essential workers made it to work and their children were safe. It was our workforce who showed up for New York City. And now we need New York City to show up for our workforce. And that is why we're here today. We are asking for the administration to put in $48 million in the fiscal year 2022 budget so we can cover our COLA for our for our employees on city contracts. This translates to a 3% COLA. Yes, we need to make sure that we pay our staff and that we provide COLAs. The second ask is that we need to make sure that we are paying an equitable salary to our staff. Our staff should not be on the brink of needing to apply for public assistance, not when our staff provide the key and essential services that keep New Yorkers and New York going. So thank you for joining us. And I want to take Councilmember Ben Kallos on already.
Not yet. We're waiting for him to join.
All right, so I'll just keep throwing out stats to you. In case you didn't know, the human services sector employs over 200,000 employees in New York City. That is incredible. And although we have the tax status of nonprofit, that does not mean that we are not an economic engine in New York City. We contribute over $77 billion. That's right, as in billions, to the New York City economy. That is huge. And yet, when it is time to balance the budget, it is often balanced on the backs of the human services sector. That is unacceptable. And last year, when we were on the front lines, our COLAs were cut. That's right. Come July 1st, 2021, there was no COLA money for us to pay to our staff. That is unacceptable. And it's really great to have all these symbolic gestures to talk about racial equity, to paint murals on the streets, Black Lives Matter. But guess what? There has to be an economic component to racial equity. Our workforce is comprised of over 80% people of color, and over 80% are women. When we talk about racial equity, show us the money. Make sure that our workforce has a living wage so that way they can live in New York City and stay here as well. So please, Mayor de Blasio, we are asking for you to include $48 million in the fiscal year 2022 budget. I love what is happening in the chat. Keep it going. And like I said, if you are on social media, please make sure to get the word out. Let's bombard the administration with messages to let them know that we are essential and that they need to fund the COLA. Anything yet from Councilmember Kallos?
Yep, he's ready. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna move over to our first speaker because I could go on and on and on about the sector, but you're not here just to listen to me. And I want to introduce Councilmember Ben Kallos. Councilmember Kallos, we thank you for being a champion for the sector. We thank you for all the work that you did on making sure that the indirect was funded. And Councilmember Kallos is the chair of the Contracts Committee. So thank you for joining us, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, MJ, over at Human Service Councils. And I see Susan Stamler from United Neighborhood Houses. Thank you. And also I see Michelle Jackson. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I just got myself in trouble because I need to acknowledge all of you. And I don't have the time. I was given 3 minutes. I am seeing huge representation. I think this is the first Zoom I've ever been on with 730 participants. This is huge and inspiring. And so I'm Councilmember Ben Kallos, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who work in the nonprofit sector, who have been fighting on the front lines, risking your lives. Many even know somebody who's given their life to help those who needed it most during the pandemic. The mayor rewarded folks for this by cutting your budgets retroactively and prospectively. We got that restored. We got that baseline going forward, and now you're going to have the same as anybody else doing business with the city, where they're theoretically going to cover your overhead too, not just some of the contract, but theoretically all of it. That's an even bigger fight. But what it comes down to it is that as we recover from this pandemic, I see a lot of elected officials talking about how they're going to bail out the private sector, how they're going to bail out landlords, how they're going to bail out big corporations. And I'm not hearing about how we're going to invest in the Black and brown New Yorkers who are hurt most by the systems of racism that made coronavirus so deadly to Black and brown people. And one of them is just the sheer number of people who are living in the poverty and who are at wages that haven't gone up in years. And so the best thing that Mayor de Blasio could do for our city's recovery is to invest in our human service workers. 80% of our human service workers are women, and 80% of those women are women of color. And so if the mayor meant it, he needs to provide a COLA increase for all our human service workers across the board, and really make folks whole for the work that they've done. And that's not even forgetting about hazard pay and everything else that should be doing. Our human service workers are essential workers. The mayor said he'd have your back. It's time for the COLA. I came to say that, and that I will be with you. And hashtag just pay. Thank you for having me. I'm at Ben Kallos on social. And if you ever have a contract where you haven't gotten paid on time or having any issue with a contract, you can always email me contracts@benkallos.com. I will get you paid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Kallos, for being an ally, a friend, and a champion for the sector. Thank you. We appreciate it. I also want to give a shout out to Councilmember Chin and Councilmember Rose. They both wanted to be here with us today, but were called into meetings at the last minute. But thank you for always standing with us. I would also love for everyone to turn on your cameras. We want to see your beautiful faces. We don't care about backgrounds, what you look like, your hair. We want to see. There's over 780 people here today. We want to see you. We want the mayor to know that we are here. We're not invisible, and we're going to show up and we're going to show our faces. That's right, Mayor de Blasio, just pay. Now, we all know that it is our workforce that is the heart and soul of our organizations. And if it were not for the work that they do day in and day out, we would not be here. And our clients and community members and participants would not get the receive the quality services that they do. So we would love to hear from Angie Nicholson, who is a group leader at University Settlement. Welcome, Angie.
Hi everyone, how are you? Good afternoon. My name is Angie Nicholson, and I have been working at University Settlement for the last 5 years. I'm a group leader at Campos Plaza Community Center. I live and work in the East Village around Campos Plaza, um, and I have watched my children and my families grow. Um, and I have been lucky to know many of my families, and my connections in my neighborhood has helped me understand the joys and the challenges experienced by families, by parents and kids, excuse me, I see every day. And throughout the pandemic, frontline workers have been drawn with an extra burden like myself, where um we're the ones where children express how they're feeling emotionally and their anxieties, and parents talk to about their pains. Um some parents who I knew for many, many years have opened up to me during the pandemic, and that meant something to me. Um, and these stories has made my workday remote be exhausting. But I had to realize that not only was I there to help them, but we have to experience certain things, and it was to the point where I needed help, um, and I was exhausted and heartbroken, so I had to receive help from my supervisor. More than once, I have spent money to make sure that the families have food on the table, and kids had devices to connect to virtually. Me and other essential workers. I did this, and so many other essential workers did this, um, despite the our budget and the things that we needed, because our community needed us. I know that the city won't reimburse me on any of these things, but what they can do is they can help me um, get a higher pay. I've been working here for 5 years, and I only seen $1.50 increase. Um, and with that being said, in that time that I started with University Settlement, a Metro card was only $116 in 2019, and today it is 127. The city needs to reinstate the the cost of living for um, community service workers, the city has been underpaying us and we need justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie, for sharing your passion for the community members that you work with and the sacrifices that you're willing to make in order to make sure that they have food on the table or some of their other expenses are covered. As an executive director, I can speak for myself and for my on behalf of my colleagues. And it is super frustrating that in 5 years, you only got $1.50 raise. Mayor de Blasio, shame on you. The human services sector is essential, and our staff deserve to have equity when it comes to pay, and our staff deserve to get a COLA every single year. And we are asking that you put $48 million so human services staff members like Angie can get a 3% raise. I don't think that's a lot to ask for when we're throwing around billions of dollars and we got federal aid. So let's make sure that this happens. Thank you, Angie, for being vulnerable with us today and for sharing your story. Now I'd like to introduce Jeff Lau, who's the Adult Literacy Director at CPC.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Jeffrey Lau, and I'm the director of the Adult Literacy Program at the Chinese American Planning Council. As some of you might know, CPC was founded in 1965 as a direct response to the Chinese Exclusion Act. Since that time, human service workers at CPC have worked tirelessly to provide childcare services, senior services, legal services, workforce training, youth counseling, as well as provide adult literacy classes, just to name a few. Every year, 60,000 New Yorkers come to CPC sites because they know they can trust the services that CPC provides. Today, I'm here to celebrate the work of our human service workers, our community heroes, and I'm also here to ask the city to put in $48 million and fund a cost of living adjustment for all human service workers. At the Adult Literacy Program, one of so many programs that human service agencies like ours provide, we navigate our community with culturally competent and language accessible services. We see about 1,500 community members walk through our doors seeking English classes every year. Community members come to learn English to better support their children with remote learning. They come because they need this skill to better navigate the healthcare system. They come because they're trying to learn English to enter the job, into the workforce or improve their job performance. Students are coming because they're applying for US citizenship. Through our programs, students learn about their American rights, how to start a small business, and how to report a crime. However, years of chronic underfunding has made it so much more difficult to pay for our staff to continue providing these essential services. Every year, our city and state asks us to do more with less. Do more. Since the start of COVID-19, CPC has been trying to navigate and provide relief for this new reality. 59% of Asian Americans are worried about their next month's rent payment. Community members are right now coming into our centers to receive unfunded hot meals and fresh produce that puts food on the table for another week. This is made possible through charitable donations and volunteer efforts, with volunteer drivers delivering food to our seniors' homes because they cannot reach our distribution sites safely. We're grateful for these donations and volunteer efforts, but charity is not sound financial long-term policy. Right now, community members are receiving information for financial assistance, legal aid, domestic violence, healthcare access, and translation services through our community centers. Right now, community members are turning to CPC for more information about AAPI hate crimes. And with less. Currently, Asian American community organizations receive less than 1% of city contract funds and almost nothing at the state level. We're grateful for the praises and accolades from our elected leaders, some of whom visit our centers and talk up the great work we do here. But this is not enough to mitigate the years of chronic underfunding our staff and services receive every year from our state and city contracts. I'm here today to bring the focus back to the human part of human services. Our dedicated, passionate staff continue to assist community members and their families, and are also navigating providing for their own families. Human service workers try to assist with food and housing insecurity for our neighbors. They are also navigating putting food on the table and affording New York City housing. As New York shut down, people who work in human services stepped up to keep the city going. Human service workers stepped up to provide up-to-date information on COVID-19, combat misinformation, tell people where the testing sites are, and vaccination information. Human service workers moved to distribute countless PPE across the city and state. Countless wellness checks to our community members meant we were able to provide in real time information on housing insecurity, the rent moratorium, financial assistance, and food access, despite chronic underfunding of our human service workers by the city and state. We still moved in to keep the city going. Over the decades, services like these have been talked up and showcased to combat the challenges that in the city and the state. Human services are often left out and by not being adequately funded by the city and state contracts. But if anything, the pandemic has made it impossible to continue to underfund, ignore, and forget our essential staff. Human services workers have risen above and beyond what has been asked of them. To our elected officials, a cost of living adjustment for our human service workers is the minimum New York City can and must do. Fund $48 million. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for your work with CPC. And you're right, you highlighted a really important point. We cannot rely on philanthropy and the goodness of others to sustain our programs. City government needs to make sure that they pay our staff a fair and living wage. They need to restore the COLAs. Simple. It is that simple. Next, I'd like to call up Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, who has been an ally and a champion, who was previously the chair of the Contracts Committee, and she's currently the chair of the Subcommittee on Capital Budget. She's a friend of the sector, and she's also a member of the Women's Caucus. Councilmember Rosenthal, please join us.
Mary, thank you so much. It's great to see you. It's great to see everyone. I want you to know that I'm walking to work. And I want to tell you about a meeting I just came from. It happened to be with a foundation that's wanting to give money to some local nonprofits. And they were asking me, you know, who are they? What do they do? Stuff like that. And I mentioned to them that I was next going to this rally and said, you know, I'm trying to get it so that government pays for salaries so people cannot be working with poverty wages and instead, you know, be able to live a dignified life and work in the human services sector. And I told them about our victory with the de Blasio administration on the indirect rates. And their reaction was, yeah, there were nonprofits asking me to fund this foundation to fund overhead. Why would I fund overhead of a nonprofit? And instead, what I'd be more interested in funding is this pilot program they were doing with social workers at their nonprofit. This was a UPK site. And that is exactly the right function for foundations, that they're doing the pilot projects, the new exciting ideas. They're taking a risk funding those ideas. And as they're proven to be fantastic, then government steps in. Sorry, just going into my office. Then government steps in and funds that, that component part, because it should be an ongoing part of the social services provider and what they do. It's outrageous that government doesn't fully fund our workers, and I'm standing here with you today, proud to stand with you. You are doing, I'm not going to repeat it so much, but you are doing the work of the city, especially during COVID. And, you know, as somebody who's in government, we should recognize how grateful we are to you for stepping up in that way. But just because you're a mission-driven organization doesn't mean government should take advantage of your good work. You should be paid fairly, just like any business that the city pays to do its work. So I really want to thank you again for coming together. I want you to know that I'm thinking about you all the time and trying to weave into my conversations, getting you more funding. You're at the top of my list for what we're fighting for in this year's budget. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Rosenthal. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear that our champions keep us in mind and they're fighting for us, and that they know that this sector and our workforce deserves equitable pay and a COLA every year. Rents go up, Con Medicine goes up, but the pay does not, and that is unacceptable. Thank you. I want to remind everyone to please make sure that you do your signs, because at 1:45, we want to do some pictures. Like you see, I have mine. Show us the money. De Blasio, show us the money. So please make sure you have your signs ready, because at 1:45, we want to take our picture. But before we move on to the next speaker, I wanted to share this lyric that Susan Stamler shared with me yesterday from the Chicks. And it says, "I'm not ready to make nice. I'm not ready to back down. I'm still mad as hell, and I don't have time to go round and round and round." That's right, Mayor de Blasio. We are mad as hell, and we're not gonna keep going round and round. And there's over 900 people on this Zoom call today saying just pay. And we're mad as hell, and we're not gonna go round and round. Restore the COLA, and we want fair pay for our staff. And with that, I will turn it over to our next speaker, Xenia Stewart, Activity Specialist at Queens Community House.
Hi, everyone. My name is Xenia Stewart. I'm an activity specialist at Queens Community House Beacon Program at Junior High School 190 located in Forest Hills. I've been in this role for about 3 months now, but I've been working at my agency for the past 2 years, since the fall of 2019. I was originally hired as a group leader. Throughout these 2 years, I have experienced some setbacks, but I continue to push forward and do the best of my abilities when working in my after-school program. I recently received a raise, and I am extremely grateful to my coworkers, supervisors, and management that has trained me to become the person you see here today. My raise has meant that I can focus more on work and school and less on my budgeting. I would like all the elected officials to know that working with children is rewarding and sometimes stressful. For the time being, I'm their line of support. I'm their words of encouragement, and I'm teaching them social, emotional, and academic skills. I believe that my field of work is very important to the communities and families that I serve every day. Supporting cost of living adjustments for my coworkers and myself means that we can focus better on our jobs and lives. Our lives are less stressful. Thank you.
Thank you, Xenia. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And it is staff members like Xenia who keep our organizations going. Her passion, her commitment, that is what keeps our doors open. And that is what treating people with dignity and respect means. But it also means that we have to be paid equitably. That is part of this conversation. And I'm glad that Queens Community House was able to do right by you, but that is not always the case. And it's not because we don't want to provide raises for our staff. It's just that the city does not provide us with the COLAs and the funding we need so we can provide these raises. Believe you me, if we had the money, we would give all our staff a raise every year. And it is despicable and shameful that every year we have to look at the staff, the faces of our staff and say, sorry, we don't have the money this year to give you a raise because the city didn't give us an increase in our contracts. Sorry, for years on end. That is shameful. I also want to let folks know that as a human services sector, we provide services to 2.5 million New Yorkers every year. That's a lot of folks who are coming through our doors seeking services and assistance. And for that, I thank you, because it is our workforce that is on the front lines doing the heavy lifting. And so thank you for that. Next, I'd like to call up Horland Lacombe, Case Manager at Riceboro, Brownsville. Think you're muted, Horland.
Everybody can hear me? All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Holland Lacombe. I'm a case manager for Riceboro home base. And what we do here is pretty much, homelessness prevention, make sure people that used to be in the shelter, get in the community, they don't go back in the shelter, or people that losing their income during COVID-19, so they don't go back to themselves in the shelter. So we are working with that type of community. And also, like, before I go a little bit further, when I was looking at that word, the definition of that word, essential. Essential means that it's very important. If my work, here's what I see. I feel like if my work is very important, and also my pocketbook has to be very important. And we are doing a job that most people, the community that we serve, the people that we serve, a lot of jobs out there may not have that much, patience, and they're not probably not well equipped to provide services to a population that needs you the most, even before COVID-19. And now with COVID-19, that's even bring more stress. And also as the worker, we have to be there and we like, God and angel to protect those people. And also we have to do advocating. So our job was like even worse. In the past was the hardest job ever. And COVID-19 make it even harder. And we have to be there for those workers. And I just want to, let all Congress and the mayor to know that our job is not, that's the name of it. We are essential worker. So we are very, very important, just like people that work for the city and people that work like in the medical field. So it's not an easy job there. And he has to do the right thing by us. And, here in New York, we love this great city here. And a lot of us don't want to leave the city and to go, we already start having a life here. And sometimes reality of life, we don't get paid right. We don't have the proper pay equity. We cannot afford to live here. And there's a lot of job out there. People may not do that much, no disrespect to them, but they still get to pay that at the end of the day. They can afford necessity, necessary stuff in life. All we need as of Congress on the mayor is to get a pay just like everybody else, so we can do what we do here in the city, a great city in the world, and we can afford everything that we have here. And that's pretty much for me.
Thank you, Harlan. You said it best. The mayor needs to do right by us. We are essential. Before COVID, during COVID, and as the city recovers. It is our organizations that will continue to be on the front line, supporting New Yorkers, getting back to work, getting retrained, going back to school, making sure that our little ones are safe, making sure that our seniors are back in their centers, engaging with their peers. It is our workforce, and he needs to do right by us. We're tired of the rhetoric. We're tired of the talk. We're tired of the speeches and the nice social media posts. Mayor de Blasio, you need to just pay COLA and equity pay for our staff. Next, I'd like to introduce Melissa Perez, who is a case manager with Eastside House, to join us and share some of her thoughts and experiences.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Perez. I'm the NDA case manager for seniors within Eastside House Settlement. I've been the case manager for 5 years now. Before being a case manager and actually providing human services to the seniors, I was actually receiving services within Eastside House because I was a student with them. So human services have been a huge part of my life overall. in my program, there's 105 seniors, and I'm the only one within my program that is a case manager. So that right there just tells you everything. During the pandemic, it was really crucial for me because most of the seniors are not tech savvy. So all the paperwork I would have to do. Also, you know, I would have to go out of my way to go ahead and make sure that they have food on the table, because some people are homebound. So some of them cannot, you know, go to these food pantries or can't even go outside because of the whole pandemic situation. Therefore, I would have to be, you know, I would have to wear double masks, double gloves, and none of my, you know, supervisors would know. It would just be me from the heart, because I refuse to let any senior, you know, go throughout their day without eating or without having certain sanitized, you know, things like hand sanitizer or anything like that. You see how the wages, just, you know, some of those things wouldn't be funded throughout my program. So where else would it come from? It will come from my pocket. You know, I'm a full-time student. I'm a full-time mom with 2 kids, so therefore I would have to stretch every dollar that I would have. But like, once again, you have to have a huge heart towards these seniors, because that's the overall population that, you know, they need help. You know, who are they going to be, or what are they going to do without having us caseworkers, case managers, human services in general to be there to help them out? That for me is like, if that's not essential for you, then what is? What is essential? You know, what is the word essential to, what's the meaning of the word essential then? Because we go out of our way to do all these amazing things, you know, and we definitely need to get rewarded for it. We need to get seen, we need to get heard. We just need everything that we need, you know, in order to succeed and in order to live. Rent is high, Con Edison goes up, especially now during the summer with these ACs, you know what I mean? So we need the pay. Let me see here. The importance of human services. Just overall, you know, basically what I have to say is that we just need to stop with all these like, oh, we will fund them, or we're gonna see if we can fund them. You know, 48 million, we need those. We just definitely need those. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for keeping it simple and keeping it real. 48 million. That's what we need, Mayor de Blasio. And thank you for your commitment to the seniors and helping them navigate through these very, very challenging times. Thank you. You are another example of what our workforce does and why it is so crucial for the mayor to invest $48 million in our sector. I don't know about some of y'all, but I am proud to say that I am a product of a community-based organization where my family and I received services since I was 14. And had it not been for that nonprofit called Project Basement, it is no longer in existence on 153rd Street, I would not be here today. So I would love to know, if you're willing to share in the chat, if you or anyone in your family ever received services from a settlement house, from a human services organization, a community-based organization, because I did, and I am proud of it, because you know what? I know that our services work. I am a walking testimony that what we do impacts the lives of our community members and changes communities. So it's great to acknowledge that and be proud of it. There is nothing wrong with saying, you know what? I needed help and I got it at NIMIC. I needed help and I got it at Queens Community House or wherever you went. So please, if you're open to it, share it away. I know I am a proud product of a community-based organization. And next, I'd like to invite Michelle Jackson, the Executive Director at the Human Services Council, to share a few words with us.
Thanks so much, Maria. And thanks so much for having me today. Thank you. We have over 900 people joining us today for this virtual rally. One of the benefits of Zoom is we can get everyone from across the city together to talk about this important issue. HSC represents over 170 human service organizations, and we're really proud to represent the organizations and the workers that are doing the hardest work in our communities. The human services workers have always been essential. COVID just shows how essential these workers are. I want to thank the over 130,000 workers in human services, many of whom are joining us today. Every night at 7 o'clock during the height of the pandemic, we clapped for essential workers. And I know I clapped for the human services workers who are out there every day at the height of the pandemic, keeping people safe, They moved people to safe places, they delivered food, and they kept people connected. HSC serves our members, and we, over the course of this year, heard from the executive directors and executive staff how much they did to support their workers who are out on the front lines, and the frustration of the barriers that they had in getting PPE, in trying to get people transportation. You know, the executives knew the sacrifices and the risks that these essential workers were taking. And it's HSC's job, along with our partners at UNH and the other coalitions, to fight that fight on behalf of the sector. Our workers, the workers of the human services sector, are so passionate, they're committed, and they come from the communities that they serve. They're 80% women, over 80% are people of color. The wages that they're paid is an equity issue across New York, and it needs to be addressed. The COLA is the least that we can do for our workers. The city sets these wages for human services workers on contracts, and we need to support all our communities to build a better New York. We don't need things to go back to the way they were before the pandemic. We need New York to come back better. And to do that, we have to invest in our human services programs, and especially our workers, who are really our greatest assets. As we look to recover, we need childcare. Hello, no one's going back to work until there's a place for kids to go. We need our senior programs back open. We need eviction prevention. We need job training as we look at the post-pandemic world. And we also need to solve some of our most pressing issues, like homelessness, food insecurity, and supporting children and families. We do all of that through human services. There is no recovery without nonprofits, and there's no recovery without our essential workers. So I want to again thank everyone for joining us today. It's really great to see so many people rallying for just pay for our human services workforce. And we're going to keep fighting for this COLA, not because it's what you need, but it's the least that we can do as we look to really improving and overhauling the system so that all of our workers in the human services sector are paid a real, equitable, and living wage in New York. Thanks, Maria, and thanks to all of our speakers today. Thanks to Ben Kallos and Councilmember Rosenthal for their great words as well.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the HSC team for the amazing work that you're doing on speaking up for and on behalf of the sector. Next, I'd like to invite our other partner who helped put this rally together today, Susan Stamler with United Neighborhood Houses, UNH.
Thanks, Maria. Nice to see you. Nice to see all of our friends. I wish we could actually all be together. My name is Susan Stamler. I'm the Executive Director of United Neighborhood Houses, and I'm so excited to stand here with you, actually to Zoom here with you and speak out today for the importance of a COLA. On behalf of UNH and our Settlement House Network, it's never been a more important time. We all know that these past 15 months have presented many challenges for all New Yorkers. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I've lived in many of the boroughs. My family has lived in every of the boroughs. And I know what it is to make New York City great and special. And it's all because of the work that you do. It's the extraordinary workforce that keeps our neighbors safe and our community strong. We should never forget that. Settlement House workers continue, as well as the human services field itself, to go above and beyond what you do. And we heard a little about that today. And through this pandemic, wherever it was possible, you kept doors open. And when you couldn't, you were smart and pivoted and created virtual programming. We know that the human services workforce checks every day on their neighbors, making sure that people have food, making sure that people have medicine, and making sure that they're safe in their homes. And despite the city's often bureaucratic decision-making and crazy forms and telling you to do this and do that and stand on your head, somehow you have persevered. You've stayed connected to your communities, and we've kept our neighborhoods strong. Thank you. Thank you. You all know that at the height of the pandemic, that the dedication and the commitment that you have to your work is what the city relied on to keep us going. And all we ask for is a cost of living adjustment to our workforce, not a tremendous lift, $48 million. I think we heard that a couple times this afternoon. What the city is doing is very wrong. It's disrespectful, and it's just plain wrong. We don't only need a COLA now, we need an annual COLA. This should be automatic. We shouldn't need to ask. We know that budgets are an expression of priorities. The dedication and the work that you do is a priority. The mayor and the city council need to restore COLA funding in the next city budget and the budget after that and after that. We don't need to ask. So between now and when the budget is adopted, we need to call on the mayor and every single city council member, 51 of them, that they need to stand with us. They need to show you support, and then they need to show you the money, $48 million for COLA funding. Mr. Mayor, Speaker Johnson, and members of the City Council, it would be wrong to pass a budget that leaves behind our workforce. This is the time. We are so lucky to live in a great city like New York, and it's a time to hold every single elected official accountable, to not leave before they put a COLA in this budget and budgets that come after. Thank you for all that you do every day and for making our city a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And thanks to Susan and the team at UNH for helping put this together today. So we have a few, don't run off yet. We have a few things for you to do. Now we want to take our picture. So make sure you have your signs. You see mine says, show us the money. Show us the money. So let's get our pictures. Just pay equity. Let's get them signs up. JT, let us know when we can put our signs down because we got a few other things to do.
Oh, we got a whole team of people running through these pages of 891 people taking screenshots. So we're going to give them a solid 90 seconds. This is our arm workout for today. People, hold your signs up if you need to rest your elbow on the table or something. I know it might be hard for me. It's okay. It's okay. That's what we have coffee for. Keep them up. Keep them up. I think we got it. All right, that's good enough. I can't ask you all to hold it up for any longer than that. Thank you, everybody.
So before we log off and we give you an extra, let's say 10 minutes back of this hour, because for once we had too few speakers. I can't believe it. Usually we run out of time because we have too many speakers, but for once we're under time. I want to thank everyone who showed up today. This is really, really important, and we need to continue to amplify our voices. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, gets the grease. So we need to be that squeaky wheel. We need to keep amplifying our voices. We need to use social media. Remember the phone? Use the phone. Call your council member who represents you and let them know that they need to include $48 million in the fiscal year 2022 budget and beyond, so we can continue to give COLAs to our staff every year. This is not begging. This is what we are entitled to. And it is our responsibility now to speak up, just how we advocate and fight for our community members, that we advocate and fight for ourselves, for our workforce, to be treated with dignity and respect. And it's not about words. Show us the money. Put it in the budget. Show it to us. That's how you can show us that you really consider us essential. You know how many times we've heard it, but let's see it in action. Show us the money. Don't forget, call, tweet, get the word out. And the last thing I want to ask of you folks, call 311. That's right, call 311. Simple, you got 10 minutes to do it. For it's 2 o'clock, we had you for an hour. And I would like to leave a message for the mayor. You need to fund $48 million in the budget for COLAs. That's it. Let him hear from over 800 people, 900 people now. And you know what? Ask your spouses, your partners, your friends, your cousins, your grandma, your kids. Have everybody call. Let's flood them today and let's let them know that the human services sector is saying enough is enough. I am mad as hell and we are speaking up today. Thank you so much for joining us. This is being taped on YouTube and the link will go out. So sorry, JT, go.
I just want to say, if everybody can give Maria a little love in the chat, she is the world's best MC, our very first choice, the one we always go to. She does not get paid for this. So maybe we need a little colo in the budget for her as MC as well. Thank you, Maria.
I'm sending my bill to UNH and HSC. I will be sending an invoice. Though I truly believe in this, and it is a fight that we're all in this together. So thank you. It's an honor to be here today as an MC. And like I said, I'm willing to speak up, but guess what? I can't be the only one. We have a large workforce out there. Let's stand up and let's speak up and let's get this done. Let's get that $48 million in the budget. And hopefully soon we can celebrate in person in some park somewhere. And we can, you know, our increase, we could buy a little beer now. But thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. Call 311. Let's go. I'm going to start calling now. 311. Vamos. Thank you, everyone.